We are here to empower women in all aspects of track and field by identifying barriers and creating solutions to promote gender equity and diversity. We will highlight accomplishments and provide resources to further skill sets and leadership opportunities for women in track and field.
One of the oldest sporting competitions, track and field is the most natural display of human ability, with the field events showcasing the ultimate means of power, strength, and speed. As life experiences define our purpose and who we are, on the journey of greatness of these pioneers, there is always a beginning.
I got started in track and field with just a play day when I was like in the fourth grade. And it was more like just one of those, at the end of the year where they have like the 50-yard dash and the standing long jump and that kind of thing. And so I participated in that, and I saw the high jumping and I said, I want to do that. There was just something about the high jump. It's like, people say they meet their husband and they know immediately. Well, it's kind of like the first time I jumped, I knew immediately that event was made for me. And I just never looked back after that.
Well, how I got started in track and field was through a community center. And at the community center, I was 9 years of age, and really we were exposed to a lot of different activities, from African dance with Catherine Dunham, or arts and crafts, played a little bit of badminton, ping pong, basketball. And then we would go in the summer and run in the park because we didn't really have a track. I would go to the park and run, and I love running. And the executive director that was over that center knew of a track program and connected me with the coaches who was already working with girls and boys that was participating in track. What was really encouraging for me was that I just love showing up every day. I love going to the trying different events. Back in the day when you did the every event that you won or you were in top 3, you got medals. So I'm thinking, oh wow, when I go to the big show, I'm gonna get a whole lot of medals, not realizing, no, you do that event, you only get 1 medal.
The American women have always been a contender in track and field, but the advancement to the podium had once been a challenge in the field events.
Most of the time when I went to meets, competitions, I would have to PR in order to make a final. And so it was really, really tough, but it was also fun and exciting and challenging at the same time, which is what I enjoyed about it. Things started to get more publicized as we went on in sport, and I think that more people got to actually see it. I came through when there were a lot of great throwers, and when I started, just seeing them helped me get better. And so I think like the Terry actually it's Cantwell now, but Terry Cantwell and Tressa Thompson, and then Michelle Carter, and now, Raven, and then all the people that came after her and that are doing it today see the people before them and believe that it can be done. And I would like to think that I was a part of creating that belief for other people.
When you're not used to seeing a lot of us on television like we have today, that generation of today think this is the norm, but there's so many people that have come before us that have really put our sport, athletics in a good place, and not only just from participation, but people are slowly investing more into women's athletics.
As these women pioneered the field events, they were an inspiration for those who followed.
My role models in track and field growing up, I would say in my event, my dad would have me look at Ramona Pagel because Ramona Pagel was the American record holder at that time. So he was like, okay, if you want to watch somebody, watch who has the record. Um, and we will watch old film of Ramona. And then next was Connie Price-Smith because she was one of few black women that were throwing at that time, especially here in the U.S. And so those were the two women that I really watched here in the U.S.
When I was coming up into the original rookie camp for USA Track and Field, they had the athletes coming out of college and who were higher up on the rankings who potentially could make Olympic teams and like beyond. And Stacy Dragila was one of the panelists there, and she was the first gold medalist for the women's pole vault when they first put it in the Olympics in the 2000s. So like she was a trailblazer, and that's what I wanted to do. So Stacy was like a trailblazer. She had just busted open the door for her sport, and that's what I wanted to do as well. As like I wanted to beat down the door and just go in there, and like I wanted to be a trailblazer at that point.
Jackie Joyner-Kersee was always been my role model. Even throughout my entire professional career, she's been the one like, oh, you can break my record, you can do this. I have a lot of long talks with her on my professional career and things like that. So it's good I'd be able to pick up the phone and be able to call your idol when you want to. So I was blessed in that they had that opportunity.
The performance of American women in field events became the model of success and the bar for excellence.
When I won the Olympics in 1988, I beat Costantinova, who was still currently the world record holder. And so, you know, at that time, I set an Olympic record, and she was the world record holder. And some events have really progressed. Jumps and heights and that kind of thing in times that happened in 1988 are kind of obsolete now. But, you know, I think that the high jump has not seen significant leaps. You know, I mean, here we are, like I said, in 1987, she set the world record, and still it's currently the world record. And so I think that says a lot about where we were. And so I think that's the way the high jump was back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It was very exciting because you could almost be prepared for a world record any day.
In the pole vault, Stacy Dragila is a pioneer that set the bar for gold and equity. A young event for women, the pole vault was included on a national, international, and NCAA level just a few years prior to its Olympic debut at the 2000 Games in Sydney, Australia. Stacy Dragila became the first woman to get a gold medal in the pole vault and continued to represent the United States with multiple championships and world records.
When I was watching Jackie Joyner-Kersee and some of the other greats jumpers jump, the jumps that they were jumping was way way further than what I was when I turned professional. And I feel like what I've contributed to the sport in that aspect was I brought the competitiveness back into the United States. We were down a lot after Jackie Joyner-Kersee retired, and then we were getting on podiums. And then once I came along and started winning, then USA Jumps became a lot better. Now we're more competitive. Now me and Tiana Madison, we was running the table for jumps for a while. So it just shows when I got in and got more competitive and started jumping those big jumps, it just started coming out more. And now we're one of the top athletes in the world now, finally, after I got started and got jumping really well. So I'm glad to see it. I'm looking forward to watching the up and coming athletes now. We got a bright future. They're young, which is actually a good thing. Now we got some longevity there, so it'd be cool to watch them and see how far they just actually can really go.
It's interesting because my coach would say that sometimes the women were too focused on strength, because the women's discus itself is only 2.2 pounds. It's not a very heavy implement. So a lot of the women who were competing up through, 70s and 80s, and it was a lot of emphasis was on the strength, and I'm sure there was as much emphasis as possible on technique, but it was like there wasn't as much of an emphasis on the speed and the agility and like the athleticism. It was more on like strength, just get super duper strong. So I know that we had a lot of resources available to us through the development program, and we had like biomechanists who were just like analyzing our throws on a computer, like 3D. We had people focusing a lot on like, how can we make you a better athlete? So I think the combination of all of that, it really contributed to a much more like scientific type of look at the discus versus let's just get strong and beef it out and like throw far. So it was much more scientific.
How I see the sport and how I contribute was I brought something different to the table in multiple ways. I brought I guess the history that I have with my dad being an Olympian. So the fact that he's an Olympian with the Olympic medal, and then here I come along, his daughter, and I was able to do the same thing. Like I bring that history along with me. I also bring the history that actually right now, all 3 medalists in my event are all by Black women. 1960 was Erling Brown with bronze medal. I was in 2016 with gold, and Raven Saunders with silver in 2020 Olympic Games. And so to me, that says a lot, particularly with me being a Black woman in an event where you didn't see many of us. And then once I came through the ranks, what followed me was a lot of other Black little girls who saw what I did and wanted to do it too. And so I bought this different flair, especially for my event being all extra girly. They call me the Shot Diva. I don't look Shot Diva is tonight. I didn't get the time to put myself together like I wanted to, but I bought myself. And then it attracted a whole nother group of female athletes that are coming in and are raising the bar every time. Records are meant to be broken. There was one point where you couldn't even see women throwing this far in the U.S. And now it's the norm. I just wish they could have done this like maybe 5 years a little earlier so I could have competed with women throwing just as far as I am consistently. Because I feel like when you raise the bar like that and you having to really bring your A game every time you turn around, it brings out a different beast in you. But at that time, I didn't always have to compete my very best to win or to make the team. But what these ladies have to do now, they have to really come with it because all of them are throwing far. All of them have the potential to break my record at any moment. So it's an interesting time for my event. And you can clearly see the difference before me and after me.
When given the opportunity to participate, women have been able to showcase their talents even when the playing field was not level.
During that time, it was just, again, recreation. This was way before Title IX. And, and even when Title IX passed in 72, we didn't understand the significance until we got to high school. We really had a strong group of student female athletes, and in East St. Louis, we dominated almost in every sport, across the state. And so, but we didn't know the power that we had. And so our coaches were very instrumental in making sure that we had equal opportunities, not even knowing that they were doing that for us and what was to be ahead of us because of knowing as I'm evolving and growing, late 60s and 70s, and knowing about a Wilma Rudolph, but then also knowing about women who couldn't even run a marathon or women who couldn't even play full court in basketball, all these stipulations and knowing the difference and paving the way for someone like myself, because of a generation prior to Title IX that did not have the same equal opportunities or being on a level playing field or just being where people could really have a vested interest in women's sports at an early age.
The AIW gave us a platform, and it served its purpose, and it was there. I think that we took even another leap as women athletes when we were added to the NCAA, because then I feel like that's when the colleges really had to start looking at equity and fairness, and Title IX was the beginning of giving us the opportunities to become the people we are today. I'm just so happy that the people before me paved the way, and that I was able to pave the way and make it better for the next generation. And the next generation, I continue to hope, makes it better for the one after.
Just being able to be along and compete and be along other men. We still got some work to do. Like I was able to, I practice with all guys. That's who pushed me. Like my coach said, I can't practice with girls because girls is too girls. He like, you got to be with the boys. And I was like, that's fine with me. So just being able to be alongside them and be able to compete and not be judged and it's just a testament. It shows just how it's moved now, because like when I watched the NCAA women's basketball and I saw the results of how more people watch the women's basketball than they watch the men. So that just shows just how far along we've come. We still got work to do for us, like money wise, but we are definitely moving forward, and I feel like it's grown a lot, and I'm just excited for the up and coming ladies that are getting to be just as equal, and just see how the movement plays out for everybody.
I ended up with a full scholarship to the University of Texas. And because the scholarships had to be a certain number compared to the men's sport, that there was a full scholarship available for me. I didn't pay a dime but tickets and library fees that I was late for, right? That's all I had to pay. But I had a chance to get a full education and compete in sports. In high school, there were sports at my high school that allowed me to compete. Now, with Title IX only being 50 years old, we still have a long way to go. I learned a fun fact over this last weekend was Title IX at 50 years old and the number of women that are in sports just now matched the number of boys that were and men that were in sports 50 years ago when Title IX started. So that means we still are so far behind in getting women into sports and caught up with and having equal opportunities in sports, just like the men do. We've come a long way, and I think that it's definitely have an impact on my life, because it allows me to come into a space where we once weren't allowed to be in, and then take the bar and raise it higher and make room for others to come in.
As we strive to be great, it is important to learn and receive guidance from those that paved the way.
So getting into the throws for a young athlete is just all about experiencing it for yourself. I would suggest that high school coaches specifically look at athletes from like volleyball, the athletes that can be quick on their feet, and but they're also, have a stature of like being able to be able to throw with longer arms and longer legs. I mean, that's just typically what the throwers have that. And then the throwers themselves, I would suggest that they have a lot of balance in their life. Being able to balance family, school, and your sports, all of those things are super important to keep balanced. You don't want to focus so much on one thing that the other ones suffer. But if you do that and you like what you're doing and you're successful at it, just keep going.
My advice is to work like today was your last day. I think a lot of times I would ration out my hard work. Like, I'm gonna work hard on this day, take it easy on this day. But to truly be your best, you got to go all out every single day. And that means you have to risk being tired. You're going to have to risk not going places because you're tired. You're going to have to sacrifice doing things with your friends because you have practice and you need to be ready for practice. Like, it comes with, to be good at something or to be great at something, it comes with a major sacrifice and a lot of hard work. And the only way you can figure out how good you ever be is if you do those two things and never give up.
Some advice I'll give is just reach for the stars, set them goals. A thing that I like to do when I was competing was I had sticky notes and put them on my window and on my glass so I could see them every day. And just had my goals, long term and short term goals, see them every day and work hard every day to try to get 1% better each day to be able to achieve those type of goals.
One thing when people say, what would you give, what advice would you give? I think the advice I would give would always be to be open to change, because it doesn't matter how good you are. Sometimes you can be better if you're willing to just navigate your life in a little bit different way. And that doesn't mean you have to blow your sport up or change everything you're doing, but you just have to be willing to accept that you do have to do things a little differently. There's many roads to the path you want to get to, and sometimes the road you're taking is not the right one. And you have to change that road.
Through athletics, I've been blessed with many opportunities, and sports have allowed me to reach people from many walks of life, connect and build relationships. I knew as a youngster that the community center made a difference in my life. Being exposed to athletics, being on the world scene allowed me to bring people to my hometown of East St. Louis to help me build a community center, to allow me to continue to do this work. And all that's through the good of sport, what sport has been able to do, not just me running, jumping, or shooting hoops, but making it into a business where I can help other people pursue their dreams. And that's the good of sport. That's what sport can do for all of us. Because if you think about it, all the life lessons, when you talk about leadership, all these things, building a team, sports give you all of that. You learn a lot about people's personality. You learn about, their attitude, their behavior. Do you want them on the team? You not want them on the team? Do they respect thing? Do they have the confidence? Do they have the determination and grit? Do they have that get up and let's do something? All these things we learn in sport, it's the gift that continue to give on so many levels. And so many of us that are out there take what we learn from sports, morph that into life lessons, and trying to be the best person you can ever be, the best leader, the best owner, the best business person, best entrepreneur, all these things you learn through sports.
In the history of women in the field events, these pioneers are a part of a legacy that connects the past, present, and future of track and field.